Thanks again to coming to our second workshop this summer. We have 4 things created. This thing is called Transition Remote to Online, Instructional Video Production. Like I mentioned, all these workshops will be happening every Monday and Thursday throughout the summer. It's a 90 minutes workshop from 1 o'clock to 2:30. The reason why it's 90 minutes is we want to allocate about the first hour to deliver content. You know, we have invite guest speakers, we'll do some sort of best practice kind of talk, hands-on activities, and then we reserve 30 minutes for breakout discussions, just because we want to be mindful of not everybody have the same situation, not everybody start at the same point. And the idea will be having a different breakout discussion to kind of allocate you as faculty to the topic that you are sensitive about. So that's why the whole event is 90 minutes instead of 60. And we have 4 things created. Starting this week to next week, we're gonna just focus on video production, from how to plan and keep up this pedagogical mindset to how do you actually do it. There are 4 workshops scheduled, and then after that, our thing will change it to course design for flip and hybrid modes of teaching in preparing for fall 2021, because most of you probably will have 2 groups of students. Very small group of students who cannot come back to campus on time will probably remain that remote mode, but majority will be in the classroom. So how do you support both of the group, but at the same time don't feel like you're teaching 2 classes? So we're gonna talk about smart design to make sure you design your course really well to accommodate that situation. After that 2 weeks, we want to really talk about student engagement, especially when you teach 2 groups of students. That could be very disruptive, exhausting for you. So we want to talk about some really effective digital active learning you can actually deliver through Canvas or external tools, and that could be suitable for both students either coming to the classroom to participate or student join remotely to participate. So we will also spend 2 weeks of the time to talk about how do you continue engage students to foster learning. Finally, the last 2 weeks before the fall quarter begin, we really want to do some boot camp, because we know faculty are exhausted and many people are using the summer to recover that exhaustion, and many faculty are using the summer to catch up your research. So you may not be able to plan ahead of the time. So we want to allocate 2 weeks at the last minute to really do a boot camp to get you ready for fall. So those are the 4 things we're gonna deliver throughout the summer. Each thing will contain 4 workshops. For example, this thing that we're gonna deliver in this and next weeks will have 4 different workshops happening every Monday and Thursday. So you can go ahead to click on this link to register if you're interested about video editing. We're gonna talk about it next week. So very quickly today, me and Natalie are going to kind of deliver some tips and tricks. How do you prepare and be ready for video production, video editing, that kind of topic. And we will, at the beginning, go over some discussion and interaction about how do you maintain that pedagogical mindset. Because what I have found is that a lot of the faculty, oftentimes when you think about, online teaching, digital learning, or video, we quickly jump into that production mode. And then you disconnect the pedagogical mindset with what you're doing. And then you either get frustrated because you feel what you're doing is not quite fitting what you want to do because you didn't plan ahead of the time, or you realize that it's really confusing because you kind of lose the purpose why you even do that. So I want to spend a very quick 15 minutes. That's kind of explore things to do or consider in advance before you jumping into recording or editing right away. And then we're gonna spend the next 30 minutes really talk about video production, all kinds of tips and tricks and best practices about how you can really create a student-friendly videos that actually foster their learning. And our video producer, Natalie, is awesome. You can also schedule a one-on-one consultation with her during the DTI office hour to get your divided attention kind of session to answer your question. And then we'll follow up with 10 minutes Q&A, just kind of see if everybody has any other questions. If not, after that, we're gonna have our 30 minutes breakout discussion. There are 3 groups that we're gonna prepare for today. One group is still talking about this planning, pedagogical mindset. What do I need to do before I get started? And the second group will be talking about video production, specifically technical things, how do you, the equipment, the tools, and recommendations, resources you can do for video production. The third group will be talking about specific tools like UJA, Zoom. So if you want to kind of learn specific of that, you can join the third group. So that is today's agenda. Let me kind of pause for a second and see if anybody has any questions, because I talk super fast. We have a lot going on today. If not, I want to kind of do a very quick poll to figure out your comfort level at this moment, so we kind of know what kind of audience we are working with today. Please let us know how comfortable you feel at this point to record a video. Doesn't matter, using Zoom, UJA, whatever, how comfortable do you feel? And don't hesitate to mark uncomfortable or you never had done it before, because it's anomalous. We will have no idea who voted what. We just want to get a good idea. All right, so let me end the poll now, since most of people already participated, and then you can see this is a very good thing, because most of the people in today's session feel pretty comfortable, and some people kind of like, not sure, so we have about 5 people kind of feel neutral or uncomfortable. Some people are experts, say, actually, I'm comfortable. So that's a very good thing. So we get an idea about recording that is good. So how about another poll? Let's do editing. How comfortable do you feel about video editing after you record it? So we kind of get an idea about your comfort level in terms of editing the video. A lot of the time faculty always want to deliver this mid-quality, perfect videos, but it will take forever for you to either re-record or edit. And while you're voting, I just want you to know that student loves imperfections of videos. They love to see the human side of you. They love to see suddenly when you're give a lecture, a cat walks over to your video. Student loves that. That's a way to actually get them pay attention. So my suggestion to be is that you may not want to treat yourself like a news anchor, try to deliver this kind of news quality kind of video. That will make them fall asleep. It's almost like those CD-ROM video that you got it from the book. So try to bring your own characters. I think students feels much more engaged with those kind of videos instead of perfect video. So if it's not needed, you don't need to edit it. That's my opinion. Okay, so you can see the result varies a lot. Compared to the recording, some people feel super comfortable, and I hope you are gonna join those breakouts to really kind of voice your experience with others. And for those who are uncomfortable, I am so happy you're here. So hopefully by the end of the session, at least you get some direction about where to begin. And we have 2 more sessions next week. One is for the beginners, one is more for the advanced. If you join those sessions, you may have a better idea, and maybe your comfort level will increase after that. So now let me get started for our session today. My talk is really about keep the pedagogical mindset before you do anything. And the first thing first, let's do a really quick poll everywhere thing. You can click on this link directly to join the poll. My question is, I am very curious about what everybody is doing or thinking first when you plan to record video. Like once you think, oh, I better record some videos, so what should I what should I do or what should I think at the beginning? So if you do that, let us know, and I'm going to show you the results of the poll in a second. So go ahead to share your idea. What comes to your mind first when you're thinking about recording the video? And this is really important. The reason why I'm asking these questions is because I want you to really think about pedagogy, thinking about planning before you start doing any recording. So so you can see the results keep coming in. So some people talk about main purpose of learning, what video do you want, think about students, think about common confusion, plan as record. So these are very good things that you come up with. You know, what's the outline? That's great. How do you clip the video to make sure that you're chunking your video versus giving a very long video? What kind of visual piece? That's so important, you know, in terms of your PowerPoint, you know, your visual piece kind of thing. So that is one of the things I would like to talk about, things that you should be better started. So let me show the presentation mode here. So that is the question I would like to kind of deliver your thinking. So now let's think about what kind of tools do you actually already use or plan to use for video recording? So I also have a poll here. I would like to start to learn about the tools that you're using. So let me launch that really quickly, because many of you already showed that you're pretty comfortable about recording the videos. And I wonder, like, what kind of tool you have done before or you plan to use. So we get a good idea about the need of teaching, you know, including the topic in our webinars. So these are the things that, even though we're trying to ask you as a poll, these are the questions you really need to ask yourself. So if you never thought about these questions, you know, you may want to kind of do a little reflective pause and think about, yeah, what kind of tool do I plan to use? You know, you may not know, but it's kind of nice to think about. So let me end the poll now, so you kind of get an idea. Most of the people have using Zoom, which I highly recommend because it's so easy to use. You can use Zoom for live meetings. You know, you just deliver a lecture live with student and record it. And you can also use Zoom as a pre-recorded tool. So you don't meet with any student, you just kind of share your screen and talking to yourself and deliver that lecture. And they're so easy to use. Once it's done, it's either in the cloud or you can download the MP4 file and put it somewhere else. UJet is another really good tool for asynchronous pre-recorded videos. So you can actually go to UJet and have your share screen. And Canvas definitely is very good for ad hoc videos. So so that kind of gives us an idea. We have some advanced users who use different tools like iMovies and Camtasia. They are all equally good. So now let me kind of do another question for you to do this kind of reflective pause. I create a Google Doc here. And if you go to this document, you will be able to see there is a question right here. The second question, what tool do you use or plan to use video editing? And this is another reflective question for you to think about. So if you already know a tool that you're gonna use for editing, feel free to type in this box right here. So if for those who does not have the link for the for this document, I am going to put it in the chat so everybody can submit it, the response in this document. Is there anybody, especially those who voted that they are very comfortable with video editing, feel free to type in the tool that you plan to use to edit your video. And you can definitely just jump into this document as anomalous. You don't need to log in. Yeah, I agree with you. I do not necessarily like UJA editing. Even myself always, get confused. So if I may say, I will suggest faculty not to use UJA editing. You may want to use UJA for recording. You may want to use UJA for storing the video and connect it with Canvas, but UJA editing is not very user-friendly. So, but I understand that could be the only choices you had before. We want to introduce you to some new tools next week. One of the tools that all UCI members have is called Adobe Premiere Rush, which we're going to talk a little bit about that. Some people use Camtasia, and I think Camtasia is a great tool, but you may want to consider using Adobe Premiere Rush. One of my instructional designers tried the Adobe Premiere Rush, actually thought it's much easier and efficient than Camtasia. So some people are using DaVinci. Yeah, that is a good tool. QuickTime is good too for Mac. Wonderful. Camtasia. iMovie is also very good if you are a Mac user. So these are more like reflective questions. I would like to just kind of submit that to you to really think about these questions. Like I said, if you never thought about these questions before, you may want to take some time, even just 10 minutes, to kind of ask yourself, what am I gonna do with video recording and video editing? So now here is some tips I want to provide it to you. Before I provide concrete technical tips, you really have to think about how you're gonna deliver your class because as you know, we're about to experience a very interesting teaching situation, and you really had to have a very clear idea about how am I gonna deliver my course in what modes. If you still couldn't figure it out, you could join our webinars for the second thing. We're gonna talk about course design for flip and hybrid. And then in that case, you can really think about, spend some time to think about how you're gonna design this course. So I kind of put together 5 different modes of teaching for you to kind of plan your mindset. The first thing is really just a traditional classroom teaching. So the purpose of the video is really just for those who missed the class, or for students who attend the class but really want to review what you talked about. So that is the traditional classroom teaching. Many of you may do that. Some faculty really want to try this flip classroom type of strategy. Then the role of the video is really for you to deliver the lectures online so they can watch it, so you can reserve in-person classroom time for active learning to engage with them. You can do a lot of demonstration, problem solving, case study, or group work. So that is something you may, if you choose to do the flip classroom kind of mode, you really have to think about a course design. What do you want them to prepare before they come to the class? Or what you want them to do after the class? And what kind of lecture videos you want to prepare for a student to continue learning in between of the class. There's another one, it's called hybrid teaching. That means a partial, it's like a partial lectures will be delivered online. So in that case, you have to decide which lecture you want to deliver online, which lecture you want to deliver in person. And then you have another mode, is what I call synchronous remote, which we have been doing that pretty much last year, is meet students and deliver lectures live online, and you record it for them to watch later if they want to. And another mode is about synchronous online. Asynchronous online is you actually deliver an asynchronous video through pre-recorded lecture videos. So once you kind of figured out how you're going to deliver the lectures, then there's 3 steps you need to consider. It's very simple. It's what you're gonna do with recording the lecture, where you're going to upload your video to make it available to students, and how you're gonna post that video for your Canvas course site so everybody can access to that video. So really think about these strategies. Finally, you want to consider if you're teaching a class with both students joining in person and online, you may want to consider recording some overview video to communicate that learning scope and tasks. So you can build a common vision among the class between your student online and student in person. You also may want to check the possibility of how you can broadcast and record your in-person lecture in the classroom, so that can be made available to your remote student to either join it live through Zoom or watching that recording later. And the third thing is you may want to consider create additional assessment, like a mini assignments, to guide and monitor students' learning progress, because now you're dealing with 2 groups of students. So it's important that you do these kind of uniformed mini assignments so you can check everybody's progress. And the student will also get a very nice call about how they're learning. Finally, I highly encourage faculty to offer virtual office hours, not just the in-person office hours, but virtual office hours. And maybe you want to give them some working group tasks for them to work during in between of the class, or some sort of study sessions like discussion sessions, that kind of thing. Very similar to this mode. If you only teach students online, that they're only gonna join you remotely, it is almost necessary to create some sort of overview video to communicate scope, because in that case you lose that in-person communication. You want to really communicate that well online. You want to plan for content delivery, because everybody's joining online. That means how are you gonna deliver your 30 hours of lecture to your students? Do you have to record 30 hours? No, but you need to decide what you're gonna record and how you're gonna record it. And then you want to consider, how do you foster learning since you don't see your student at all? And we all experienced that for a year, so you probably have a good idea by now. But my suggestion would be assigning additional mini assignments for them to do after they watch the video as a class participation. So those kind of things will really kind of guide their learning. And finally, again, offer optional live sessions or virtual office hours to support learning. And later on, Natalie is gonna kind of briefly talking about a document called Remote Lecture Planning Worksheet. We created this worksheet about a year ago to help faculty to prepare for remote teaching. So you can click on this link and kind of answer some of the questions, and then kind of prep your pedagogical mindset before you start delivering start producing your instructional videos. So that's a very quick time that we kind of go over some planning. So our next step is letting Natalie to talk about how do you producing new videos, tips, tricks, and food for thought. So Natalie, I'm going to stop sharing, and feel free to start unmute your microphone and share your screen.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Oh. If anybody has any questions, we'll wait until the end to answer. So,
which there might be a lot of questions, because this is a very loaded presentation I have prepared. So, hello everyone. If you haven't met me before, my name is Natalie Hadland, and I'm the video producer here at DTEI. If you were able to come to our Monday workshop, then you heard my talk about how to repurpose existing videos that you may have created over the past year. And if you were unable to join us for that session, I'm currently editing that video. We're going to have it up really shortly, and then we'll be able to provide you the nice, cleaned up professional recording of that workshop. So in that session, we did talk a little bit about what you can do to clean up or repurpose your existing videos and when you might want to record new videos. And I'm hoping you've also seen now the value in providing videos to students, and hopefully you're getting kind of excited and maybe want to start producing some higher quality videos, which a lot of instructors I've worked with, once they start recording videos, they tell me how much fun this is. And it is kind of a rabbit hole you can fall down into, which I'm always really happy to hear. But whatever your reasons, I'm glad you're here. We're going to talk about some tips for producing new videos on your own. And I'm calling this tips, tricks, and food for thought. I want to give you a note before I do start my presentation. I am going to be throwing a lot of information your way. Over the past year, I've kind of given the same talk in several different workshops about how to think about chunking your lectures and best practices for PowerPoint slides or accessibility. And I kind of wanted to do something different today. Now, if you want to hear those lectures or those workshops, they are all on our YouTube video playlist about lecture production, which I have included a link on this slide. And if we can also get that in the chat, and you can always bookmark that later. But we have several recordings of me talking about the very basics of video production. And now I want to kind of bump it up to the next level. And we're going to talk about really how to enhance your video production skills. But everything I talk about might not be applicable to your needs and what you're producing. Everyone is teaching different subjects and may have different needs based on the types of videos you're making, the kind of content you want to show. And that's why I'm really just calling this tips, tricks, and food for thought. I'm hoping that some of what I talk about really just sparks your creativity and gets you thinking about different ways to produce videos. But in no way is this going to be a step-by-step tutorial like when we talk about how to use a third-party tool. This is just going to be a smorgasbord of ideas that you may want to pick and choose some to incorporate into your own video production. So first off, most of my talk is going to be on how to visually enhance your videos, but I need to mention that above all else, your audio quality should be your top priority. Video quality can be forgiven, but audio quality cannot. I like to talk about, if you've ever seen those kind of really grainy independent films, you know, they may be shot on like a really low resolution, they have that gritty feel, and you kind of go along with it as long as the audio is still good quality. But if you've ever seen a really nicely shot professional movie and all of a sudden like the audio drops or something sounds odd, you notice that right away. So lower video quality can be forgiven, but audio quality cannot. There are situations where you can clean up your audio in post-production, like if you sound a little quiet or there's a little bit of background noise. And we're going to talk about how to do that in post-production in next week's workshops. But if your voice is muffled or distorted, which can happen if there's a lot of background noise and you have the Zoom noise suppression filter on, it can sometimes make it sound like you're underwater. Then there's maybe not as much you can do to clean up, and you might have some issues later on. And of course, the better your audio quality, the more accurate your automatic captions will be. And this is something I've always talked about. I talked about this in my Monday workshop as well, because that's how important this topic is. And so I'm probably going to mention it in the next two workshops as well. So if you are prepared to record new videos and you're unsure of the audio quality, you can always just record a minute or two of content, send it to a colleague, ask them what they think. Ask them if you were easy to understand, if you were clear. You could always upload that little 2-minute clip to Yuja and then see how it does with the automatic captions, see how accurate they are. And if you just decide, you know what, I don't think the microphone in my computer is cutting it, then the good news is you can get a new microphone for very little money. There's a link on this slide to a USB podcast mic that's about $30. It's one that a lot of instructors have purchased and have been really, really happy with. It simply just plugs into your computer with a USB and it's ready to go. So I've gotten my audio out of the way. And now we're going to talk about tips and tricks for production value. Now, one of the things I also want to stress before I go into the rest of this talk is you do not need the same level of production value across all of your videos. Don't think that because you spent a lot of time making a really standout course overview video, all of your lecture videos, your example videos need to match that level of style. They do not. Putting that high level of production value into every video will be incredibly time consuming, and you're going to start to feel frustrated, especially as the quarter gets closer. And as we'll cover later, you can continuously work on your videos as time goes on. They don't need to be perfect the first time you use them. You can keep working and making them better every time you teach the class. I would also recommend just picking out a few videos, maybe even just one video to put that high production value in. This can be something like your course overview video, so students are really dazzled when they first arrive at your class, or maybe it's a walkthrough video or an FAQ video that you're going to use quite a lot. We have an instructor, Karna Wong. She's actually going to be one of our guest speakers next week. And she created this really great series of helpful hints videos for students across all of her classes, showing them how to use different tools and how to analyze different things they need in her courses. So because these videos were going to be utilized by a large majority of her students, quarter after quarter, she really put the time in onto these videos. So think about what videos are going to be most useful. Is it just a one-off video that, oh, you need to produce it for just this one class, and then you probably won't need it again? Maybe it has to do with a current situation, like when there are wildfires going on, or if things change with returning to campus. If you're not going to need to use it again, probably don't want to put in a whole lot of production value, just get the information out there. But if it is a video that you're like, I'm going to use this class after class, this is something my students ask me routinely on, even when we're back in the classroom. I want to have this little helpful example video to really help emphasize these key points, then maybe those are the videos you're going to want to spend the extra time on. So the big tip I want to talk about when it comes to production value is visual engagement, and how breaking up the visual composition of your videos is the quickest way to really add value and production quality. And here's how I like to think of it. Some of you might have seen this phenomenon or this illusion before called the Troxler effect. And the Troxler effect is where you have an image like this, you have a lot of out of focus colors or patterns, and you have this black dot in the center. And if you just stare at that dot and you focus on that dot, everything in your peripheral vision starts to kind of fade away. If you stare at it, you'll see the colors start to morph in and they start to turn gray, and they'll eventually disappear from your view. If there isn't any visual stimulation, those parts of the images start to fade away from your awareness. And it's just a little trick, but this is something I kind of think about when I'm making videos. If stimuli remains unchanging, then attention spans are going to kind of start to fade away. The brain's going to notice nothing's changing and it might start turning off. So if the visuals never change, if you just have a really tiny webcam and then very basic slides, and that's the entire composition of your video, it's not unreasonable to think that learners' attention might wane and some of your students might start to get bored. Attention spans online are not the same as they are in the classroom, so it might be harder to pique students' attention as easily as you normally could in person in a lecture hall, just talking to them with a PowerPoint behind you. So if you can, switch up your content. Go between showing slides, having a full screen talking head when you want to address your students, or maybe adding a little image or a B-roll clip, just something that's going to visually change that frame, because that's unconsciously going to give that little click, that little stimuli that kind of helps us pay attention, and it'll keep your viewers engaged even if they don't know it. And so, as we mentioned before, we don't need the same level of production value across all the videos you need to provide to your class. Just focusing on one or two now to get that extra treatment, because you can always revisit your other videos later and work on them. So this is why I'm mentioning continuous improvement. You can continually improve your videos. So I want you to think, especially if you're using Zoom or Camtasia or whatever your recording software is, Think of these as your foundation. It's important to get that done now. We want to make sure we have our content recorded, everything we need to give to our class now, so that you aren't rushing to record a video the day before you need to give it to your class. So that's the foundation of our house. But then once you have that basic recording done, now is where we can really dress it up. Maybe next time you teach the course, you can go back and start editing or enhancing your videos. You can review the work you did before and go, you know what, maybe I can see I'm on this slide a little bit. Let me see if I can find a clip that I can put in here or something to break up those visuals. And this is another reason why I really love creating videos, because, you know, it takes time up front. You got to record that foundation, but then the next time you go back, it's going to take a little less time. It's not going to take the full amount of time you spent recording those videos to maybe clean up, add a graphic here, add a little music or an animation there. And then when you're happy with the videos, the next time it's time to teach the class, you don't have to do any work. Your video's done. You can keep using it again and again. And I want to mention Sherry Selgren. She's a lecturer in political science. She's become one of our rock star video producers. She met with me in office hours earlier last year, and we learned iMovie. I taught her how to combine clips. She was also someone who was using Yuja, and we went over to iMovie, and she really, really became awesome at creating these visual videos. And she recently sent me new videos. I posted a link on one of these slides if you want to see one of her examples. She told me that she watched her original videos, which were voiceover with PowerPoint, and she noticed that maybe it was lingering on a PowerPoint for a little too long. So she sourced clips and images to break up the monotony, and she referred to this as boredom busters. I want to credit her on that term because I absolutely love it. And so she had already recorded the content she needed, her voice and her slides, and she just went back and used these little clips as her boredom busters. So she doesn't need to re-record every iteration, or every time she teaches, she doesn't need to record new videos. She just was able to quickly enhance the videos she had already done, and they're really engaging. I love that they're short little clips, so her videos are really worth checking out. So now I'm gonna move into Zoom because I really do love Zoom as a video recording tool. And I am going to quickly launch a poll, just asking which Zoom tools have people used before? Because there are actually a lot of tools in Zoom, and I realize not everyone still even knows everything that Zoom's added, since they keep adding new tools for education since the start of 2020. Got almost everyone answered. So I'm going to end this poll, and I'm going to share the results. And I'm really happy to see that a lot of people have used the whiteboard feature, because I think sometimes that's something that can easily be forgotten about. Annotation, excellent. I really like that we have 3 people who've used an iOS device as a shared screen. That's one of my favorite little tools and tricks that I think some people still don't know about. So this is great. I like that there is a wide variety of experience with these Zoom tools. So of course, my next tip and trick is to utilize these Zoom tools. And again, I really like Zoom as a recording tool. I am so impressed with how it's transitioned from primarily a business tool back in 2019 to an education tool in 2020. And the great thing is that while it was created as a meeting space and for a lot of synchronous online lessons and classes, it can be used as your own private recording studio. All you need to do is start a meeting by yourself and hit the record button. So I really like the whiteboard annotation features, especially because with the annotation features, this is something we couldn't actually do in a lot of the classrooms at UCI. If you showed a web page on a projector, you couldn't really, unless you're in a smart classroom, you couldn't circle parts of the web page or draw attention or type out on top of an image without maybe destroying one of those pull down projector screens. So that's actually been something I kind of hope we can continue to utilize as we move back to the classroom. Slides as a virtual background is also really fun because it honestly turns Zoom into your own professional green screen studio, and it actually kind of mimics the way we'd record videos in the studio on campus. If you've never played with slides as a virtual background before, please feel free. We've got videos about how to use it on that YouTube playlist, or you can always visit me in office hours, but it is really fun because it puts you on your presentation. You can change how big you are. You can move the position of yourself, so you can actually move yourself around your slides to point out different pieces of content. I will mention the one little trick about slides as a virtual background is to use it, you do have to record locally to your computer. And I'm going to talk about recording methods in just a second, but that is something I want to bring up, because if you record slides as a virtual background to the cloud, as we record most of our Zoom meetings, it's not going to work quite right. And then I love the fact that you can turn an iOS device into a document camera. I watched a video on YouTube where a woman made a document camera stand out of cans of beans. She didn't even need to go and make a professional stand, but any device like a smartphone, you can hook up to your computer either through the Wi-Fi or a cable, and then share your camera screen. If you turn, or share your phone screen, and if you turn the camera on your phone or your iPad, now that's become a document camera. And if you just find a way to balance your phone above your desk, now you can, write out math by hand, or I know, the chem professors who have those little molecular models, you can have your camera or your phone as a straight down document camera and mess around and play with those little atomic models and have that be your shared screen in Zoom. And I really love seeing the different ways that instructors have utilized this, because there are so many different types of content and ways instructors would interact with their students in the classroom, that being able to have a mobile camera as your secondary source kind of detaches you from having to have everything in front of the webcam that's just built into your camera. So my next trick is to record separate video tracks in Zoom. If you know you're going to be doing any sort of editing of your videos, I recommend this feature. It will record your shared screen and your webcam as two separate videos. Now, this can only be done if you're recording your Zoom video to the cloud, not locally to your desktop. So separate video tracks is Zoom in the cloud. Slides as a virtual background is locally to your personal computer. And if you've ever recorded a video in Zoom before, you'll notice that when you hit the record button at the bottom of your Zoom menu, it'll ask where you want to record to. It'll say like record to the cloud or record locally. So you make that choice of where you want your video saved when you hit that record button. And doing this really allows more flexibility when you're editing your videos. You can choose when you want to be full screen on your content or full screen on your webcam, or maybe play around with the composition of your videos. So when we talked earlier about this, visual engagement and changing the composition, it's really easy to just do this if you have those two videos as separate tracks, because then you can choose later in post-production when you're full screen, when your slides are full screen. Maybe you want to mix it up and you want, really half your screen to be your video and then a little bit on slides, because you want to be able to point to certain things in your video and have your students see where you're pointing. It all really depends on your content and your video's needs. But the nice thing is then those are choices you can make after you're done recording your video. You don't need to make those choices immediately while you're in the recording process. It also makes it easier to replace slides or cut your camera in post-production. So in our Monday's workshop, I talked about sometimes when you want to repurpose your videos, you might need to replace a slide that maybe had the date on it or referenced, a Thursday office hour or something like that. And if you're working with just the one Zoom video that has your camera and your slides combined, you might have to do a little extra work if you don't want to cover up your camera. If you've got this one video track and you're trying to put a slide over it, but your video was covering the slide, you might end up having to cover your video, or you might then want to have to try to crop part of the new slide you're putting on so that it's not obvious you covered it up with a new slide. If you record as separate tracks, then that is not an issue, because you have these two separate pieces. You've got your shared contents slide, web page, whatever piece, and you've got your video piece separate. So you can affect just one without affecting the other. And also you can elect to record just an MP3 audio file of your class that you can share with your students. This isn't so much a video production tip. This is more of like a best practice tip. We've also heard of students who really like having just that MP3 audio file, and they'll listen to their professor's lectures as podcasts when they're out on a walk. But just being able to provide content in multiple formats is always a best practice. So how can we record our speaker and our shared screen separately in Zoom? First, if you log into your uci.zoom.us account, everyone will notice that on the left-hand side of your screen, you have this navigation bar with profiles, meetings, webinars. You're going to click the settings button on the left menu bar, and it's going to bring up your settings menu. And from there, you're going to click on recording, the second button from the top, now highlighted in red. So you'll go to uci.zoom.us, navigate to your settings, and then click recording on the top menu page, and it'll bring up your options for what you want to record to the cloud. So here's just a bigger view of that window I just shared. And you'll see you've got local recording and then cloud recording. Local recording is for when you designate, I want to save this video file straight onto my computer. And cloud recording is when you say, I want to store this video file online in my zoom.us account, which means you will have to go download it to edit it. But we kind of prefer cloud recording because it gives you more options. It saves you on storage space. But under cloud recording, you'll first notice there's these little toggles on the right-hand side, and you want to make sure cloud recording is enabled. So you'll see inside the red box, I've got this little toggle that's pushed to the right, and it's blue, which means I have cloud recording enabled. I'm going to allow Zoom to be able to record to the cloud. This should be everyone's default setting. I just bring this up in case you've tried to go into Zoom and record and you don't see that record to the cloud option, then go into your settings because this might be disabled. And if it's disabled, the little circle will be to the left and it will be grayed out. But then once it's enabled, you have all of these options to choose what you want to record. And you can check as many of them as you like, because again, everything's getting saved to the cloud, and then you can just choose later which pieces you want to download or which pieces you want to use. But I would recommend always having the following 3 checked. The first is record active speaker with shared screen. So this is your normal Zoom recording where you get one video file that has the webcam and your shared screen just in one. So if you need to share your video with students before you have the time to edit it, or you want to just make sure you have this in case you're not going to get around to editing it later, then this is the file you'll want to have. And now you'll notice then there's a section called record active speaker, gallery view, and shared screen separately. If you check that on, then you can check active speaker, gallery view, and shared screen. And this means it's going to create a separate video for each of those options. So active speaker is just going to be a video of your webcam in the full resolution Zoom can do, which is 720 pixels. It's a nice big recording of your webcam. So this means even when you're sharing a screen, it's still creating a nice big file. So later, if you want to switch between full screen on you speaking and full screen on your content, it'll be that nice big resolution. Because as you know, when you just record with shared screen and your webcam, the webcam, it's so teeny tiny, it's so difficult to see up there. And then you'll also see this option for gallery view. And gallery view means it records like a Brady Bunch style video of everyone in your meeting whose cameras are on. And so if you're recording an asynchronous file, if you're just in your personal meeting and it's just you there, then Zoom isn't going to generate a file for gallery view because that would be the same as active speaker. There's only one person in your gallery and that's you. And then under that, you'll also see that record an audio only file. I should probably check that as a best practice, but you should also check the record an audio only file if you want to be able to provide that MP3 audio file to your students after you've recorded your video as well. So here is actually an example for most of the workshops we've hosted at DTEI. I've elected to have Zoom record the shared screen and the speaker view separately. And as you can see, this gives me more control in editing. So this is actually a screen grab from Monday's workshop. It might look familiar if you were with us on Monday. And as you can see, the composition isn't much different than when Zoom records. I've got slides on one side. my webcam on the other, but I've played around with it a bit. I've made sure that my video camera doesn't overlap with the slides. I've also made the webcam a little bit bigger so that you kind of notice the speaker more, so there's more speaker presence. I've also placed both feeds on top of just a solid color with our logo to help brand it. So again, it gives that slightly more of a professional look than just a raw Zoom recording. And this is a very simple thing to do. If you know what the layout's going to be like, it's very simple to just put your 2 video tracks into your video editor on top of a solid color. And already it kind of, it just gives it a little more of that professional feel. And then maybe instead of, you know, our logo, the color mat you put it on top of could maybe have the name of your class or even your name as well, just to give it that little bit of branding as a reminder. So especially if students try to take a screenshot, they'll know this is your class from this course. But that's just an idea. And like I said, this also makes it easier to replace slides. So if I realize there was an error on the slide I have on my screen, I can easily just cover that up with a new slide without it affecting my webcam. And so it just makes those content swaps easier. And as I mentioned, it also makes it easier to go full screen. So there was a point in Monday's workshop where I kept talking and I had my shared screen still visible, but I wasn't talking about the shared screen. And I kind of went, well, this doesn't really make sense. I'm not referencing what's on my slides. I'm kind of going off on a tangent, and I want to make that presence with my viewers a little bit better. So I got rid of the shared screen view and I just made my webcam nice and big. And it also creates that nice visual break we talked about earlier with kind of breaking up the composition. So one of my last tips and tricks is to back up your files with Google Drive. I've just given you a lot of information. We've talked about sharing different video tracks, and we're going to be editing. And on Monday, we talked about, organizing your system so you have your raw video files and your edited video files. And this might start to sound like, oh my gosh, this is so much data and so many video files, and I don't think my computer, my laptop is going to have space for all this, and eventually it's just going to burn out. What do I need to do? Well, the good news is that anyone with a UCI email address has unlimited Google Drive storage through Google's G Suite. It's your own personal private Google Drive. It's not like this would be shared with anyone else at UCI, but it's just connected to the UCI account to give you that unlimited storage. And when I say unlimited, I mean unlimited. I've uploaded terabytes and terabytes of data over the past 10 years, and I still haven't found the bottom of G Drive yet. So once you've finished editing your video and you've either uploaded it to Yuja or your course space or shared it with your students, if you think, okay, I'm not going to need to re-edit this video in the immediate future, maybe next year, but now it's just taking up space on my computer, then you can upload these files to your Google Drive, and then you'll be able to delete them from your computer. And you know, I've got a couple of copies. I've got a copy on Yuja, I've got a copy on Google Drive. So that way, if one fails, there's a copy somewhere else. It's just a little bit of safety, and being able to constantly clear out these video files, because they are large, will help keep your computer's performance running better. If anyone knows, when you really start to reach the limit of your computer storage, things start to run really slowly. So yes, back up everything, then you can delete them from your computer. Even if you don't think you'll be editing your videos, but you're using Zoom and recording to the Zoom cloud, it might still be a good idea to download those raw files from Zoom and back them up in Google Drive. Some instructors choose to just share the Zoom link with their class from Zoom after they've recorded, but don't forget your Zoom cloud recordings are going to expire at some point, and they will auto-delete. Hopefully Zoom will give you a notice, but normally I think we set our Google Drive to 500 days. There's a limit to how long you can keep a video file, on Zoom before Zoom decides to delete it. But if you downloaded it and upload it to Google, then you've got that copy safe. Google's not going to delete it, and you can revisit it at any time. So that's pretty much it for tips. Now I want to move on to just some resources that we've provided for you to use. And the first is the Video Lecture Delivery Planning Worksheet. And this is actually a newer version of the worksheet Megan talked about earlier. This is a brand new worksheet that I've been developing with our instructional designer, Kaylee. So if you click on the link at the bottom of the slide, and it would be great if we could put this link in the chat as well, Google Drive will have you make a copy of the worksheet. So it'll just be your own personal copy and you can edit it to your heart's delight without affecting the worksheet for everyone else. And this worksheet is great if you plan on developing lots of lecture content for your course. If you're only planning to create a couple of videos, maybe a course overview video or a couple small lectures, then this worksheet probably won't be too helpful. But if you're producing lots of videos for your course, like lecture videos and overview videos and walkthroughs and reflections, then this is a great way to organize and keep track of all your videos and your progress in making them. And this worksheet is actually based on the tracking system and tracking sheets I create when I'm creating large volumes of videos for online courses, because sometimes I'll be creating like 30 to 40 videos. It's really easy to forget what's been done, what hasn't been done. Have I uploaded something? What does each video go to? And so I'll create a worksheet like this that really helps me keep track of everything. So you'll see and you can edit this worksheet. You can add more columns based on how many videos you need, or rows based on how many videos you need. But you'll see we have it broken up into 10 weeks where you can figure out, what are the videos I want for this week? Do I need to create them? Have they already been created? Are they videos that I'm grabbing from another source like YouTube? If you want to mark kind of what the tools you're using are, just to kind of give you an overview of what the video is, there's a column to then indicate if it's been recorded, if it hasn't been recorded, so you can easily see how much progress you're making. We put in a final length of your video after editing, so you kind of can also get a look at how much video content, or how much video content per week are you creating, and then a place to annotate if you've uploaded it or not. This is just a really great way to start planning out your video delivery, as it gives an overview of the content you've already produced, what you need to produce. It gives a clear picture of how many videos you're providing to your students, and if the video content is balanced across all weeks. So you might notice, oh, I only have like one lecture video in week 3, but then I have 6 in week 4. Maybe I need to figure out what's going on and balance out my video content a little bit. So I'm really happy with how we've been creating this worksheet, and I really hope that it's as helpful to all of our guests as it is to me when I'm working on online classes. And also, if you plan on attending our workshops next week, or you want to get into video editing, you're going to need some sort of video editing software, and we recommend Adobe Premiere Rush. Adobe Premiere Rush is a really easy to learn, user-friendly software that is available for free to all UCI faculty, staff, and students. OIT has a licensing agreement with Adobe that's good at least through July 2022. So you can download, you can obtain a license from OIT by visiting oit.uci.edu/Adobe. There'll be 2 buttons. You're going to click on the one on the left that says for faculty, staff, and guests. You should receive an email with instructions, or follow the instructions on OIT's instruction page, which I've also linked to on this slide, because it can look a little complicated. What you're actually getting a license for is the Adobe Creative Cloud, which gives you access to like 20 different creative applications. So once you get that license, it'll be Adobe Creative Cloud, and then you can choose to download as many as you want. In addition to Adobe Premiere Rush, you'll also have access to other applications like Photoshop and After Effects and InDesign. But the one we're going to be teaching next week, and the one we really recommend because it is so user-friendly and easy to use, is called Adobe Premiere Rush. You will see an application called Adobe Premiere Pro. That is like the beefed up editing. That's like they edit movies on Adobe Premiere Pro. That one is a little more complicated. It's got a lot of tools that you're not actually going to need, and it's a little less user-friendly. So that's why we're really recommending Adobe Premiere Rush. And if you are in the School of Health Sciences, you're not going to be able to get a license from OIT. UCI Health Sciences has their own licensing agreement with Adobe, so you can still get it, but you need to contact the Health Sciences Help Desk to be able to request that license. And I also wanted to include a slide. This is also going to be helpful if you are coming to our editing workshops next weekend. But as I talked a lot about, breaking up your videos with different visuals and video clips. You might be going, well, where do I get these video clips? And I've compiled a list of really great resources, places where you can get free and open source or Creative Commons video clips. You don't need to worry about copyright. These are just a lot of, they're going to be kind of general. So Pexels and Pixabay has a lot of video clips and images and illustrations, but they are just little nice things to break up. So if you're talking about, you know, if you're in urban planning and you're talking about kind of city populations, you might go in and just find a clip of like a densely packed city that you can throw in there just to add, again, that little extra bit of visual flair. The Internet Archive also has a lot of historical clips. So if anything you're talking about is historical, I found a lot of really great old videos from like the 50s that I've been able to pull clips from, like the ones they used to show in classrooms, that kind of also add a little bit of fun for like old computers or old health videos. And then also there are places where you can get free music as well. If you want to add a little background music to your video or even sound effects, YouTube Audio Library has a bunch of free resources for you to download. And I have gone over time. I know everyone's probably anxious to get to breakout rooms, so I am going to now stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn it back over to Megan.
So before we kind of move on to the next step, I just want to let you know that if you had trouble logging to your Adobe Creative Suite account because you somehow already use your UCI account to create Adobe Creative Suite without connecting with that single sign-on, because before that was not available. So you already used the UCI email to create an Adobe account, but it did not connect with single sign-on. So when you log in right now in your Adobe Creative Suite, they recognize you as you, but doesn't recognize you as a part of the UCI people. Does that make sense? So you may have to contact OIT. It happened to us, I think, one time when I tried to use the Adobe digital book reader, and it just could not recognize us. So you may have to contact Adobe to find out what to do, or contact OIT to figure out what to do, because the reason is that the account you logged in, Adobe could not recognize you as part of the single sign-on. That was the issue. So, okay. So thank you very much for joining today's session. For more questions, feel free to schedule a DTI office hour with Natalie. Her office hours is on Tuesday from 2 to 3 or Friday from 10 to 11, and you can click on the link to continue. Thank you.